This is the Happy Dev Podcast with me, James Brooks. Welcome to episode 3. Thank you for all of your kind feedback from Matt's episode. It's really appreciated. This week, I'm speaking to Laravel employee number 1, aka Mohamed Said. Mohamed has worked for Laravel for the last 3 years. Working from his home in Hurghada, he lives with his wife and newborn son. He's a keen cyclist, runner, and freediver. Okay, so Mohamed, could you introduce yourself, please?
All right, so my name is Mohamed Said, and I'm a web developer from Egypt. I've been coding since I was 13. Back then, it was like when I discovered coding, it was one of the things that defined me as a person. Before that, I didn't know actually who I was. Now I've been coding since then. I am a husband and a father to a three-month-old. I live in Hurghada, Egypt, and when I'm not doing any coding, I'm out there cycling, crashing, and doing free diving during summer, and that's pretty much who I am.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into programming then?
Well, when I was 13 years old, there was this competition at school. It was about building a website, discussing one of the issues that faces our generation, like environmental issues, so on and so forth. And I didn't know anything about coding back then, but I decided I'm going to build a website. And back then, Macromedia Flash was very popular, and I decided that I'm going to use it. Of course, there was little to no coding involved, but that's how I figured out that I like this kind of thing, to build stuff that can be hosted online for millions of other people, can easily reach it and try to use it, so on and so forth. And that's how I knew that this is the kind of thing that I love.
Do you remember when you first became aware of your mental health?
Awareness for mental health just started here a few years ago, and that's when I started to read about it. I started to figure out where I am. I'm in a healthy state mentally or not. That only started a few years ago. But thinking about it, when I was young, when I started coding, when I was 13 or maybe 14, I used to suffer from the feeling of loneliness, and I didn't actually know where this is coming from. And thinking about it now, I think it was mainly because I used to spend most of my time in front of a computer during summer vacation, instead of going out and playing with other friends or going to cinemas and so on and so forth. So when I think about it now, I think I started facing mental health issues when I was as young as 13 years old. You know, mental health is not like widely discussed where I live.
So what is it that Egypt is scared of with mental health? And do you think that it's taken a long time, or why has it taken a long time for it to really become something that's more prevalent now than it used to be?
Like, here people think that if you declare that you have mental health issues, that means that you are crazy and they better avoid you, or you are spreading negative energy, you are not a positive person, so on and so on. It's mainly because of the media, if how media like represented people with mental health issues. They are either killing others, or they are very sad and living in a negative way, not caring about their health, eating bad food and doing bad stuff, something like that. So people just didn't understand that mental health is not just like the image that they put on TV. Like it's all of us, we have mental health issues. If we define it as mental health issues or not, it's there, and you have to be aware that besides taking care of your physical health, you need to take care of your mental health as well. And that only started a few years ago in Egypt, where like it's on Facebook, people with mental health problems started to talk about it on Facebook, and many people realized that they have the same issues, they have the same problems, and these problems, they are related to mental health. So mental health is not just crazy people or people with depression. It has so many mental issues has so many forms and so many like you can be unhealthy mentally even if you are healthy on a physical level. That's what people here did not realize.
How do you think that becoming a father has changed your view on mental health and your own mental health?
Well, I think I started to become actually a crazy person after having my son.
That's just the sleep deprivation.
I think so. But like sometimes, like I have, especially in the early days when it's very hard to deal with a newborn, especially when it's your first, you haven't tried this before. You have very dark thoughts about life, about how is it going to be in the next 18 to 20 years old. It's terrible. It feels large. It feels huge, and it feels that you're going to carry all this by yourself. So when I started, like the first few days, having these dark thoughts, I actually didn't have enough physical health to control how I feel, because like to feel good you have to be physically good and mentally good as well. So if you are on the mental level you are having issues and you are having issues on the physical level as well, it's impossible for you to find a place where you can just stand and look at the situation from above and figure out how to deal with it. So with the sleep deprivation, with the not eating healthy, not sleeping at all, it's hard to look at it. But after a few days I started to recover physically at least, and then I looked at it from outside my body, and that's how I try to deal with mental health issues, that I look at it from outside, and I try to be like I'm not sure how you can say what's the definition, but to think with logic other than not feelings. Think with logic about it, and when you logically find something easy to deal with or can be fixed, you feel that at least if you don't do anything, if you just try to stick together, if you try to put yourself together, it will be better by time. So it really affected my mental health, of course, but just for a few days. After that, I think I got pretty much back to normal.
So you do a lot of exercise, cycling and freediving in the summer. Do you, aside from using that for your physical fitness, do you use that to take time out mentally as well?
Yes, I'll just tell you about what happened a couple of days ago. I was like very exhausted mentally because I was overwhelmed by a lot of things happening in my family, and I was in a very dark place for a few hours, and then I decided that I need to get out. So I just got out and took my bicycle and started cycling, and it usually takes around, I don't know, maybe an hour of activity until I started to feel better. But then at this day, the moment I got out of the house and I started cycling and my heart rate started to go up, I instantly felt better. And I think it's related. Like when you exercise, when you take your heart rate up and the blood circulation starts to get better, you instantly feel better, even if not even if you the problems aren't solved, but you feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, runners they call it being runner high or runner's high.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I experienced it. I experienced this several times with running and with cycling, swimming, and yes, it's there and it helps a lot.
What was your motivation behind cycling? Was that something that you had taken into consideration with your mental health, or was it just a way to exercise and do something a bit different?
Well, with cycling, we just moved to a new town. We had our apartment, a new place, and I wanted to discover the area around the place. And it was really raw, like there are no roads or nothing, it's just mountains. And the best way to do it is using a mountain bike. So I bought a mountain bike and started to go out with it. And I enjoyed it so much. Not just the sightseeing, but I enjoyed the effort that I do and that the progress I feel like when I do this climb. When I did this climb the first time, it took me 10 minutes and I was like exhausted. But now it only takes 7 minutes and I'm fine at the top. I'm not as exhausted as before, and it feels good. Like you feel progress. So that's what motivated me. No, I want to do more. I get a road bike and I push hard and try to climb harder. I'll do better. I'll run also. No, I did 10 kilometers in 55 minutes. No, I need to do it below 50 minutes. So it's good to feel that you're progressing at something.
Yeah. So you're always pushing yourself to do more physically and mentally, really, as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think I try as much as possible to know where I stand both physically and mentally. Every couple of weeks, I just sit there and try to think about it. If I'm eating healthy, if I'm sleeping enough, if I'm doing enough exercise, if I am meeting people, if I am talking with my friends, if I am happy at the house, we're okay, we're fine. Try to just take some time out and think about it all, and it really helps.
Is that something that you would recommend then? Is a bit of reflection time?
Yes, of course, it helps a lot. I think it's mentioned in all the blogs that talk about mental health and all the books that you have to have some time to reflect, to know where you stand, because sometimes you just feel bad and you don't know why. Like, I just feel bad. If you sit with yourself and you reflect, and you figure out that your life is okay actually.
Aside from reflecting on everything that's going on each week, 6 years ago you stopped reading the news. I saw a blog post about how it's had a positive impact, but what was the decision behind that?
Well, 6 years ago, the political environment here in Egypt was very toxic, and it was really bad to follow the news because it was all bad news. It was scary, it was terrifying. But then I met a person. He was a friend of my father, and he said that he's not following the news. He knows nothing about what's going on in the country, and he's fine. He lived his life not following the news, and he's fine. He didn't really need to know about anything other than the news of his family and friends, close friends, maybe the city where he lives, but not the global news or even the nationwide news. So I tried it for a few weeks, and it really helped. Like when you follow the news, you feel stressed, you feel worried about your future, because if something happened thousands of kilometers away, you feel it's an immediate danger, but it's not. So not following the news actually helped me with like not feeling worried about the future and just focusing on the moment and thinking about the future of my small family or the circle of family and friends that I live with them.
Yeah. And do you think that's kind of an extension of what you were saying earlier with the kind of fear of missing out? Web development in particular, there's so many things going on all of the time. Do you think that not following that as closely as people do is also a good thing?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. When I was young, when I started coding, during summer vacation, everyone went out, go to cinemas, and they were dating and having girlfriends, so on and so forth, whatever teenagers or young people do. And I was just sitting at my computer and trying and coding all the time. And when comes a chance that a friend of mine is inviting me to go somewhere or something, and I used to refuse because I was worried that if I miss today on the internet or tomorrow or a few days, I lose a lot of knowledge, or I will not be able to know about this new technology coming out, or uh, I will be outdated in a way. So I was worried about that since I was young, because it was like moving really fast. Like every day you open back then. I don't remember what was the platform back then. I think I was on Yahoo Chat, the web development room, chatting room, and yeah, people were posting new stuff every day, every single day, and I used to think that if I missed the chat room for 1 day or 2 days, I'll miss a lot, and I will not be able to get back to it. And I can say that it really destroyed part of my childhood and teenage. That the fear of missing out, especially in this industry that's moving very fast, and growing up and later reflecting on the way I was when I was young, and I figured out that it's going to be okay. Like, you don't have to keep up with everything. You don't have to know about everything. Like, I think the last thing I followed was the release of Tailwind, I think. After that, like, a lot of new frameworks and a lot of new stuff came out, and I really don't know about it. And I think I'm okay. Like,
Yeah, I think you're doing all right, Mohammed. You don't need to worry about anything there. But do you think that in a weird twist of life, I guess, that the fear of missing out from technology impacted the kind of missing out on other aspects of your life?
well, I think yes, but I cannot like think of an example of this happening. But I think it yes, it affected me, because I was always trying to know it all. I was all trying to be friends with everyone, to uh, to know what's happening with all the friends and family. And when social media came up, I was very obsessed with knowing everything happening with all my friends and family. And I think yes, it was fear of missing out when I think about it now. And so yes, it had an effect. But I'm really glad that I didn't spend so much time in this. I figured out soon that that's not good. It's not a good thing, and I was able to take a step back and just limit the amount of information that I'm collecting.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think social media, although it's definitely got its pros for like the family and friends aspect of it, it can also be very overwhelming. And that in itself can definitely impact on the way you feel about yourself and the world and everything going on.
Yeah, of course, and especially that in social media, everything is filtered. Like, if you see a photo of someone who is smiling, well, I live in a place here where people are taking selfies all the time in front of the beach, and sometimes it's 41, 45 degrees. It's very hot and very humid. You can barely walk for 5 minutes, and they just stand there and they take a selfie, smile for 1 second until the selfie is done, and then they are back to feeling exhausted by the heat, and they are not happy. But the photo on Instagram, it says that they are happy, but they are not.
Yeah.
So yeah, social media is not actually the real life. And taking a step back from social media, it really helps you figure out that you are something. You don't have to do exactly like what people on social media do for you to be happy.
Absolutely. I know that in Egypt, especially where you are in Hurghada, there aren't any meetups for developers like yourself. How, with you working remotely for Laravel, how do you find that impacts you?
I think currently the problem that I'm trying to figure out is that I don't have enough friends, face-to-face friends, people that I can meet in real life. Because what happened is that 4 or 5 years ago, uh, many of my friends, or actually all of them, they left Egypt and they moved to Europe or the States or Australia, several other countries, because they found better jobs, better income, better way of life, and so on and so forth. So I was left here in Egypt without any of the friends that I made for the past 10 years.
How come you didn't move with them?
I used to have a very, very big desire to moving out and try to live outside Egypt and work outside Egypt. But then I had to take care of my family back then,
Okay.
up until like 2 or 3 years ago, because my father passed away in 2013.
Right.
And yeah, I had to stay in the country to take care of my mother and my other two brothers until they are now all grown up and they work now and they make money. And but back then I used to provide for them, so
Yeah.
I had to stay. I had to stay to take care of them, and it, 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 it didn't turn out bad actually. Like I really enjoyed the past few years in Egypt. It wasn't so bad as I expected it to be when I felt that I am forced to stay. It wasn't actually so bad. So every one of my friends, they left, and we moved to a different city where I know no one. Then I started to make friends, but they are actually people who live here. They do not have interest in web development and uh, internet and so on and so forth. There is no community here where I live. The community exists in Cairo, actually. So that's something I'm trying to figure out. Like how can I make friends after all my friends moved out, and where I live in a working remotely. I'm not like meeting anyone. I mean in the field. So it's something I'm still trying to figure out. But I definitely hope that I can find some way to still be connected to the community in Cairo while I live in Hurghada.
Is there any co-working spaces near you?
There is one co-working space, but it's mainly used by people coming here on vacation, not people living here. So if you're a web developer and coming here on vacation, and you want some time for yourself away from the family to finish some work or just update something or take care of something that you have to do it, you go to a co-working space. So it's normally people coming in for a few days, not people living here.
Why don't you break the mold? Why don't you start working there occasionally? It's a good way to meet a lot of new people.
Yes, it's actually a good idea, but I don't think it will work now because we have a newborn and I
Of
have
course, yeah.
to take shifts with my wife just to make sure that we are giving him all the attention he needs because we live away from the big family, and
Okay.
we try to give him all the care he needs, even though we are away from the big family that can give him much more care than we can do. So we're trying to do it on our own, both of us. So yes, maybe in a couple of years when he's a little bit older, maybe I start a community. Even I can try to figure out a way to start a community here in Hurghada so people can learn about web development and maybe try to work remotely as well, even though there are no companies here. So maybe I do that, but
Yeah.
it will need a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I don't think I have enough capacity for that at the moment.
Absolutely. Being a dad, especially a new dad, is a very hard job, isn't it? And like the Daily Dad, which we'll put in the show notes, it says that it takes a village to raise a child, and it's so true.
It is so true, and I didn't really understand this phrase until we had my son. His name is Zain, by the way. And after that, when we started feeling that being away from the big family in Cairo, it like if we were closer to them, it would have been much easier raising Zain than we're trying to do now on ourselves. So yes, it takes a village.
So, my final question then, Mohammed, what makes you a happy developer?
Well, it's always hard to answer this kind of question because like being happy at some moment it's something, and after a few moments it's a completely different thing. But I think one thing that's constant is that if you are among other people who are happy, you will feel happy. Even if you have problems, if you have issues, if the people around you are happy, you will start feeling a lot better. So I always try to make everyone happy in any way I can. But when I succeed at that and meet friends or people who are like it's really hard to answer this kind of question, but but it's mainly yes. If you spend some time, if you are among people who are happy, you feel happy as well. So I try to do my part to make everyone around me happy, so we can all be happy. That's pretty much how it is. It's simple,
like it. Simple.
Yeah, it sounds like it sounds like something like very mainstream, but I can't find any other thing than this. Like, if you try your part at making others around you happy, that includes your family and your friends, your neighbors, you will be happy as well.
Good, solid advice. Okay, well, thank you so much for being on the show, Mohamed. I really appreciate it. And specifically, when I first discussed the podcast with you, Dries and Taylor, you were very excited about it. And forever grateful.
I wish you the best of luck, James. Like I think it's a really good podcast. It's really going to help people.
And that brings us to the end of episode 3 of Happy Dev. Thank you, Mohamed, for chatting with me today. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please remember to subscribe and share this podcast. Currently, the schedule is releasing every 2 weeks, so I will see you then.